Exactly 1 year ago, I made the decision to stop waiting, to stop outsourcing my decisions. I was just always on the verge of thinking someone's going to come into my life and that's when I'm going to change. Always feeling like I was trying to force things to work and like I could just never find my groove with things. I knew what version of myself I wanted to become, but it was just feeling so difficult to get from A to B and to actually become who I spent so long trying to be. And it was only over this past year that I've managed to achieve the things that I actually set out to do maybe 6-7 years ago. And that has come from showing up every single day as the version of myself I wanted to become. It's taken me through lots of kind of pivots, twists and turns over this past year. I have committed and did take my body to the most extreme place that I've ever gone to, and I've learned so much from that process. And I've also been through one of the biggest healing and reinvention journeys. In this video, I'm sharing the 7 lessons that I've learned from discipline, devotion, feminine energy, intuition, identity shifts, and how to become magnetic again. First thing is the cocoon phase. Now, I feel like I've been in a very much cocoon phase, and I love that word because I feel like it gives you a good visual of what life just often feels like. So say if you've been in a sprint mode or you've been in sport mode for months, like a good few months, where everything is just momentum, you're using a lot of that kind of doing, going energy to get things done. That I don't believe is sustainable, or in my journey, I've not found that I can sustain that for too long without something coming up. I'm someone who over this past year has been very much going after my goals very aggressively, and I feel like it's served a pocket of time. However, I've really had to learn recently how we need the seasons, and I've had to retreat, almost what feels like retreat within myself, just take myself out of the busy mode to go a little bit more inward. This came from just feeling a little bit disconnected, also experiencing that for a period of time. Like I didn't just wake up one morning. I had, I'd say 2 months where I just felt like something's off. Sometimes our life can start moving in a trajectory that isn't in alignment, and that's also fine. And that's kind of the beauty of whatever you believe in, you know, universe, God, whatever your beliefs are. I feel like we get given certain feelings and we don't just feel things for no reason. Like we don't just wake up one morning and feel off. There's always a deeper why. So I think life very much comes in seasons, and it feels like you're in the soil and you start rising from the soil once you've kind of like processed your emotions, your thoughts, your decisions you've made, all this kind of stuff. I feel like a big part of reinvention is being able to take a step back, to look from a bird's eye view, because sometimes when you're in the midst of always working towards, say, a goal, or you're just busy with work, your 9 to 5, and you feel like you haven't really set any intentions for your year or just where you want your life to go over the next 6 months. Sometimes it can feel like you're going backwards, so you can have these real big sprints of time where you're just like achieving, or you're just in a good flow or whatever, and then something kind of rocks you off a bit where you've achieved that goal or you've accomplished what you set out to, and then you're kind of like, oh, I feel a bit of a lull. We then get to sort of recalibrate, and maybe that next season of life is about actually just slowing down a little bit, reevaluating, and just resting a little bit more, or having more time for your friends or family. And sometimes this cocoon phase just is not glamorous. If it's been training for something really intense, or if it has been just been in a very consistent, structured routine for a long period of time, like I feel like life throws stuff at me to slow down, or if I feel like I've just been adding more to my plate, feeling like I can cope, I'll sometimes end up with like a small injury or a niggle. And I really believe like this is all part of the process, little things. So where I'm going with this is you really need to learn to be able to allow for these cocoon seasons where you feel like you're kind of in the soil and then you will rise up again. And we have all these ebbs and flows of life. That is what I've learned from my recent cocoon phase. After I did my bodybuilding show, after having such a clear goal, I obviously didn't want to then set out to do another prep. That would make no sense. You always need to improve. There's a reason why athletes have off seasons. You need the off, you need the yin and the yang of anything, whether it's sport, work, relationships. Like you're always going to have the ebbs and flows, and I think when you try and fight for keeping this trajectory, it's just not realistic, and you end up injured, you end up unhappy, you end up burnt out. So I really think cocoon phase is where you can get introspective and where healing can really begin. So to me that looks like spending more time meditating, trying new things across different avenues. So I've been doing more mindfulness, going to yoga classes, doing more slow things to kind of feel emotions and work out what is sort of coming up for me. Discipline isn't about restriction, it's about devotion, and I think there's a crossover. You know in your heart when you're pushing what doesn't feel right anymore, or what is starting to take from your energy. And I think for people that can go full send with exercise and kind of disconnect from their body, this is where you really need to be careful that you are still in tune with what feels right, because your body needs to keep some form of equilibrium to be able to function, think straight, to feel good. I'm not talking about laziness, and I think this is why there's a difference between laziness and discipline. You need to know yourself enough, and that comes from practicing, connecting to yourself every day, whether it's just making a little bit of time to do a bit of breath work, to write out your intentions for the day, know what your values are and where you stand amongst all of these things, and making sure that you truly value your health, because the minute you stop valuing your health and start choosing things like how you look, like purely if you are just chasing abs, for example, or chasing an aesthetic that doesn't equal health, you will pay the cost of your health, if that makes sense. And what are we without our health, really? So just making sure you've got your balance with discipline and being devoted to yourself. So showing up for yourself in the way that gives you the most energy and moving your body in a way that feels really good to you, making sure you're still challenging yourself, but you're not pushing past those limits where your body is screaming at you and you're starting to ignore it and just calling it discipline, because that is not healthy and it's not maintainable either. Like, how long can you keep that up for without things crashing down? Like relationships with your friends, relationships with your family, things will break down if you're not careful where you're devoting your time. It isn't about anyone else, it's about what feels right with you. It's you showing up in your highest form and being really clear on what your highest form of yourself, or this highest version of yourself, actually looks like not just deciding to say, I'm going to commit to being really healthy, but what is that healthy for? Is it for longevity? Is it for an aesthetic? Is that purely your focus? And being more intentional with that. Next one is identity shifts and owning your glow up. So there is always a version of you that has to shed before you step into a new one. How you dress is such a big part of how you feel, how you present yourself. Also your feminine energy, which is something that I've truly started to think more about. So one thing I really value is being a high maintenance girly. And I was someone who was like, I'm not really high maintenance, but to me, high maintenance means a lot of different things. And one of them is high maintenance women know who they are, they have expectations, they know how to voice their needs and wants, and generally people I would consider high maintenance, I love them because they have an opinion, they present themselves in a certain way, they dress well, they have their routines. A lot of these kind of things, presenting yourself well, making sure you have clean hair, and are cues to your subconscious that you are worth it. Now, when I think of when my life is in a mess, I almost always have really undone nails, my hair's a mess, I feel like my house is a mess, and I truly think it's often a representation of your mind. One thing I take pride in is always making sure I'm presenting well, and obviously we all have our different meanings. Like, it's not about having the most expensive rituals and doing things that you can't afford or anything like that. One thing for me is sense. Even if I'm coming on a Google Meet call, I will make sure I've got my perfume on just for myself. It's how I feel like I'm putting the time, I'm taking that time as well. You are worth putting in the time to yourself, and it presents and radiates across everything else. And whenever I'm most disheveled, which does happen, I'm not here saying that everything's always done and I don't struggle, like sometimes I find it really hard to find the time to go and sit in a nail appointment, but it's about reframing how you view those things. Because I know when I show up with half broken nails, I feel like I'm in hiding, whereas when I show up how I want to perceive myself, it just has a ripple effect out in everything that I do, and I always show up more confident. And these are cues that you can use to tap into this version of yourself that you want to become by simply showing up as this person day in, day out. The cost of ignoring your intuition. So this one is such a strong one that I'm sure we can all relate to. At times when I have ignored my body or ignored my intuition, I've always paid for it later down the line. It's kind of like, when you get a gut feeling, like everything is a lot of the time in our gut. Like, we've all heard of that saying, when you just get a bad gut feeling, or you get a dodgy stomach if you're nervous or anxious about something. And that's just one example of how connected our brain and gut are. The same as when you don't feel quite safe, you feel quite stressed in your body and you're in that kind of like fight or flight mode. I feel like I spent a lot of time in this mode when I've pushed past my body's signals and safety, and your body starts to whisper, doesn't it, until it's screaming at you by throwing things in the mix. I did a bodybuilding prep, so I took my body to a super lean position. I think I was under 8% body fat. I can't tell you how much comments I got on this physicality that was the most unhealthy thing, and for a pocket of time. Like, that is the nature of bodybuilding. It's like you are building a physique and then uncovering it by taking all the fat off to present a physique on a stage for a set goal. A lot of people can get attached, and I can totally understand why, because you're getting so much external validation. You've really got to know yourself and know what's important at the end of the day. To achieve that physique, even for a short period of time, took so much sacrifice, pain, and came at a cost, is where I'm going with this. And I think people don't really share or talk about the cost of doing anything to an extreme. With women as well, maintaining a very, very lean physique comes at the cost of your health. And when people say health, that's obviously a broad term, but it comes at the cost of your mental health, because your hormones can't function at that, which means you literally can't think straight. You're not yourself because your hormones are suppressed. So you can't feel things like emotions, goosebumps. You can't connect as well with other people in general. And is any physicality kind of worth that, is what my message is with this one. This is something I remember when people were like, oh, just like listen to yourself. Who on earth is, sometimes it's like, who is that self? And it's that voice that's always there when you're in situations that things feel off, when you're in, say, a relationship or friendship that you know just like isn't right, you don't come away feeling good from, and that situations or circumstances are taking from your energy. You know, when you just come away from something, you feel tired and depleted for no reason apart from you being in the energy or doing things that go against your values. And it's only when we take a step back, recalibrate, look at a bigger picture, that we kind of figure out, okay, don't want to do that anymore. I want to relook at a different route. And it takes a bit of a setback or something to come up when you're forcing and not listening to yourself. Like, you get forced to sit down, things show up in so many different ways. Reprogramming through ritual. Now, this has been the most pivotal thing I've done over this past year, which has helped me grow so much as a person. It is literally like therapy with yourself. We have so many thoughts a day, and so many of them can start spiraling down negative kind of loops and pathways. So if I have like a bit of a moment, I can start spiraling off down negative trajectories and then just getting really overwhelmed. And what has really helped to break that loop is, first thing in the morning, when your brain is the most reprogrammable, is rewriting things like affirmations and putting positive thoughts into your brain, and having things like affirmations playing in the morning as you're doing your makeup, and literally rewriting the stories about yourself that can create in your mind, and just getting clear on setting your actual intentions for the day. So it's not just about willy-nilly writing down, oh, I'm grateful for this, but not really feeling it. But, you know, asking yourself the deeper questions. How do I actually want to feel today? What am I truly grateful for? And what am I becoming? And being intentional with, like, what are 3 things that are going to actually move me forward today, rather than just writing these to-do lists and feeling like you've got no connection to them, and then wondering why they just build up over time and you don't really get anywhere. That is exactly what I've been also working on with this particular thing. So I've created a journal, which is what I've used over this past year every single day, which is so intentional and everything is thought out. These are the exact prompts that have just got me out of so many spirals and changed the way I view everything. And what I've done is created these prompts for you to use that follow on from each other. So it's not just like a gratitude journal, but it leads on one from the other, and it's simple and effective. It's not something that takes you like way too long. I've tried many journals in the past I've used for one day and then I've just found it overwhelming, whereas this is super simple, and it's just on more like what you need, like on a daily basis, opposed to just something that you're going to look at once and then, you know, not go back to for a year. But that has really helped me reconnect. And what I've done with journaling and even in rituals is not do them as a to-do list. Like, each day is different. Some days, you know, you might want to write one prompt. Other days you might want to spend more time like getting your thoughts out onto paper. But rather than looking at it as just something to tick off, just thinking about, how is this helping me grow? How can I make this something that I enjoy? Creating little rituals around it, like lighting your incense, like creating a mood, having a certain spot, and making it more of like your little sacred pocket of time for you, where you check in with yourself and you're being intentional every single day. Vision, desire, and subconscious alignment. This one might sound like a bit of a mouthful, but it is about getting so clear on what you want for the next 6 months. Now, I am not talking about just the surface level things of saying, right, I want to achieve 500k on Instagram in the next 6 months, or I want to be on a yacht in 6 months' time. Because when you actually get really deep and ask yourself, is that actually what I want? And usually we can set out these goals and don't achieve them because they're not actually what we truly want. What is your intention behind that? Like, what is that 500k going to make you feel or do? It'd be much better looking at things like, right, don't want to teach and educate people on a topic that I absolutely love over the next 6 months. And then you can correlate and set milestones to achieve a certain follower count with a different intention. And then, you know, do you really want want to be in a yacht? Like, of course the yacht can be on the vision board, but is it aligned with what is actually like to your core? Like when you're really realistic, are you that desperate to be on a yacht? Of course you're allowed to want beautiful things and you deserve a beautiful life, but make sure they're your things and what you truly want. Like I remember I was going after certain physique goals that when I got down to it, like I didn't want to have the biggest glutes in the world. I wanted to have strong defined glutes for my own reasons so that I felt strong in myself. Or recently I've had a muscle building goal, and to someone else they might not want any muscle and they want to be the smallest version of themselves, but like I know how I feel when I'm strong in my body. I love the visuals of muscle on women. I love training in the gym and lifting heavy weights. I love how that makes me feel. It makes me feel feminine. I love Pilates. I really do love Pilates. There's femininity in everything. Like there's not a one size fits all. With visualization, this is something that we do in the Flowness Club a lot. With any new program that we do, we always go back to what is my why behind this? What is it that I'm wanting to achieve over these next 8 weeks? How am I going to show up day in, day out? You get so much better, long-lasting results, and actually results that you can maintain, not just for like a pocket of time, because it's connected to something deeper than yourself, a deeper why, a deeper reason behind it, and it's not just surface level, you know. I always want you to be going after something that feeds your soul rather than status, because anything that's just, if we're just going off to appease someone else or to look a certain way to fit in with a certain group of people, it's just like disconnected and you don't feel part of yourself. Like I want you to embody the strongest version of yourself, whatever that looks like, whether you're a Pilates princess or a weights girly or a walking girly, whatever that is for you. I want you to be in your power, not following trends, because your body and you are not a trend. You are such a force to be reckoned with. If you've ever gone after certain goals and then felt empty, you've achieved something and you're like, you've maybe gone and achieved your dream weight or scale weight, you've got in that body but you still feel like you're either too small or too big, and that's usually when we're chasing things that aren't truly in alignment with ourselves. Or say if you've got to a certain physique goal but it means you can't really eat that much food, so it's not very maintainable anyway. So it's just always about coming back to yourself through daily practices like meditation, journaling, and also just coming at things from speaking love to yourself. Like you think when you speak like I love you, like these words are so powerful, opposed to speaking hate, like oh I'm not good enough, or you don't like what you see in the mirror. Like that just contracts you and you always want to be stepping into that expansive state. I really hope this video has been useful. I feel like there's a lot that we've gone through in this one, and I'm so grateful that you made it this far on in the video. I would love to support you inside my Flowness Club, which is where I host all my workout programs, and we do challenges where it's way more than just a workout program. It is addressing nutrition from the inside out, as in knowing actually how to fuel your body properly for your goals and to create alignment in every aspect of your life. We do a lot of mindset work and we have our weekly calls where we do check-ins, so you're supported. It's not just like buying a program, then just following a few workouts and feeling like you've lost motivation within the first week. Like it's very much, we do daily check-ins with our acts of flowness and so much more. I'll pop the link in the top line of this video's description if it sounds like something you'd be interested in. I am so grateful for you. I cannot wait to see you in the next video. So much love, and I'll speak to you soon.